After 10 heartwarming years, Billionaire's daughter makes an incredible choice. The black maid receives honor. Claire stood at the threshold of her future, poised like a sparkling diamond on a velvet background. With her high school graduation just days away, the pressure was palpable. Everyone waited for her to shine in the spotlight, but it wasn't the kind of shimmering glow that made her heart race. Instead, it was a whisper of a different kind of light, the warmth of a bond formed in the most unexpected places. The mansion was ablaze with gold chandeliers and walls lined with art that could sell for millions. But the real masterpiece in Claire's life was Clara, the woman who had been by her side for the last decade. More than a maid, Clara was a friend. Their connection, forged through shared laughter and quiet conversations in the kitchen, transcended social divides. Claire often marveled at Clara's resilience as she navigated her own battles for respect and opportunity. Her story whispered under the din of privilege surrounding them. Every Saturday morning, they would bake together warm, gooey cookies filling the air with sweetness. Clara would tell Claire about her own dreams of going back to school, of working hard to become a nurse. In those moments, the gulf between their worlds seemed to narrow. Claire could see Clara's eyes light up when she spoke of a future where she'd be recognized, not as a woman who served but as a woman who saved. Those dreams were Clara's lifeline, and they became Claire's too. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with the pressure to attend a prestigious university mounting. Claire felt her heart beating faster. The whispers of her parents' expectations surrounded her like tight ropes pulling her away from Clara's world. But how could she swallow the polished rhetoric of privilege while standing beside someone who embodied strength in the face of adversity? Graduation day arrived, the silent tension heavier than the cap and gown draped on her slender shoulders. As she stood before the sea of faces, including Clara's warm, encouraging smile, Claire felt an electric thrill rush through her veins. What if she spoke up for the dreams of those silenced by wealth and status? Could her words echo Clara's unfulfilled aspirations? The thought ignited a fire within her. Taking a deep breath, she found those words that could change everything. Just as she began her speech, a nervous hush fell over the crowd. Claire felt the weight of their gazes, but she also felt Clara's spirit urging her forward. Today, I choose to honor not just my journey, but the journey of those like Clara, who deserve to shine just as brightly. The gasp from her family was audible, the shift in the room palpable. Clara's heart raced. She had done it. She had taken a step into uncharted territory, illuminating the divide between their extravagant world and the struggles of people working hard to reach their dreams. But as whispers intensified and judgment rolled in waves, Claire stood solid, swallowing her fear. She was a force of change, but with that came a price. Could she bear the thought of losing everything she had known? The moment stretched, hovering in the air like a poised dancer, leaving her at a crossroads questioning her loyalty and her heart. What would it mean to stand for justice in a world filled with silence? The fear of impending backlash loomed large, and Claire knew this would ripple through her life just as Clara's steadfast loyalty had formed the core of hers. Her next words could either confirm her place in the elite or set her free. Claire's heart thundered in her chest as her gaze danced around the sea of faces staring back at her. Her family's expressions ranged from shock to outrage, while her classmates shuffled uneasily, trying to gauge the changing tide of their privilege. Clara stood in the back, her eyes shining with pride yet laced with worry. No one in the audience understood the weight of that moment as Claire stood vulnerable yet fierce. By speaking up, I risk everything, Claire thought, folding her hands tightly. Yet deep in her soul, she felt an undeniable urge to awaken the truth lingering in the shadows of their lives. She was done hiding behind the armor of expectations. This is my voice, and I choose to use it. As she continued, Claire heard her words echo back, infused with strength she never knew she possessed. Each syllable was like a small rebellion against the silence that had governed her life. She spoke about Clara's dreams of becoming a nurse, of the countless nights spent dreaming instead of sleeping, and the sacrifices made to ensure her friend had a shot at a better life. With each confession, Claire could feel the walls of her carefully constructed life start to shake. I am proud of my history, proud of my friend, and I choose to uplift voices that deserve to be heard. Claire declared, her voice rising above the murmurs. The crowd wavered between stunned silence and growing respect. We can't continue to live in bubbles of ignorance. Change demands acknowledgement. Suddenly, a whirlwind of emotions swept through her. She touched on the sacrifices Clara had made, hours spent working late into the night, enduring disrespect so Claire could enjoy a life forged in luxuries. Tears pricked at her eyes as she thought of every cookie they had baked and every dream they had shared. Her world was more than just a privileged facade, it was a complicated tapestry woven with love and struggles. Amidst the tension, she noticed a figure move through the crowd. It was her father, seething with disappointment and disbelief. His presence magnified her doubts, but she was determined. I will not let fear dictate my voice, she reminded herself. As the speech came to a close, Claire took a deep breath, stepping off the edge of the established norms into uncharted territories. Her heart raced, her defiance felt liberating but precarious. The applause that erupted was unexpected, an amalgamation of genuine support and measured reluctance, like the fluttering of butterflies caught between astonishment and disbelief. For a brief moment, the noise washed over her like a warm tide. Once the ceremony ended, the whispers grew louder. The thrill of empowerment was replaced by a heavy cloud of uncertainty. What would her parents say? Would Clara be caught in the maelstrom of their discontent, or worse, deemed unworthy by the very society they lived in? These questions gripped Claire's heart like a vice. Suddenly, Claire spotted Clara making her way through the crowd, the warmth of her steady gaze melting the edges of Claire's mounting anxiety. You did it, Claire. Clara said, her voice bright yet tinged with uncertainty. You spoke from the heart. What if this costs us everything? Claire replied, the reality of her choice pouring in like ice water. Clara smiled softly. Change always comes at a cost, but it can lead to something beautiful. And I'd walk through fire for you. Just as Claire was about to respond, her mother stormed over, a fire ignited in her cold eyes. What have you done, Claire? She hissed. You have embarrassed our family. This will not stand. The tension fractured the moment, leaving an electric silence in its wake. Claire's heart raced once again, caught between her mother's wrath and the comfort of Clara's solidarity. In that moment, Claire realized this was just the beginning. The battle lines had been drawn. Would she stand strong amid the turmoil, or would the weight of expectations pull her back into silence? Her resolve hardened, she was ready to fight. But was she strong enough to withstand the floodgates of privilege that were about to crash down around her? The future loomed ahead, uncertain yet full of possibilities. As she turned to Clara, the fragile bond of defiance surging through her veins, Claire understood, the true journey had just begun. Clara's breath hitched in her throat as her mother's words shattered the moment. The anger radiating from her mom felt like a physical force, suffocating and cold. Embarrassed? Claire echoed, bewilderment mixing with loyalty. She glanced at Clara, whose expression reflected a tinge of panic. Yes. You've chosen to align yourself with these people, Claire. Do you even understand what they think of us? Her mother's voice rose, turning heads. The crowd felt like a cage now, every gaze heavy with judgment and scrutiny. Clara's stomach twisted. It's not about them, Mom. It's about standing up for what's right. You always taught me to be brave. Brave? Her mother mocked, eyes glaring like daggers. You're being foolish. You're putting us all at risk. Claire clenched her fists, the heat of defiance coursing through her. I'm risking nothing compared to what Clara has endured. This isn't just some choice I made on a whim. This is about changing lives. Enough. Her mother snapped, and Claire flinched at the finality of her tone. Before Claire could respond, a familiar face emerged from the sea of disappointed expressions. It was Ethan, a classmate she had only tangled with during debates and science fairs. With thick curls flopping over his brow, he pushed into the spotlight, chest rising and falling as he summoned courage. Mrs. Mallory, maybe Claire is onto something, he said, his voice wavering but growing firm. It takes courage to recognize privilege and fight for those who don't have a voice. Whispers erupted, the crowd oscillating between disbelief and intrigue. Claire's heart hammered. Ethan was right, each word a lifeline thrown into a turbulent sea. She saw the glint of surprise in her mother's eyes. Then, as if propelled by an invisible string of destiny, Clara stepped forward, her voice serene but resolute. I've worked hard my entire life, Mrs. Mallory, but that doesn't mean I'm any less human, any less deserving. The silence that followed hung thick, air crackling with tension. Claire could see her mother's defenses begin to waver. You can't be serious, she murmured, conflict flickering across her features. Why not? Clara's challenge was clear, powerful. Supporting one another leads to strength. Can't we learn this from our own history? Claire felt a swelling within as the beginnings of empathy ignited in the crowd. But that flame was minor, surrounded by heavy shadows of doubt. Claire stepped closer and gathered her breath. Mom, if change doesn't start here, it won't start at all. What kind of legacy do you want for me? One built on silence? Tears blurred her vision, but she fought against them, anchoring herself in hope. I don't want you to be hurt, her mother whispered, a crack in her armor. Mom, Claire replied softly, reaching for connection. Sometimes we have to be brave enough to stand in the fire so others can find their way through it. At that moment, the first flicker of understanding passed between them. But then, her father moved forward, wrestling control back. He cleared his throat. This has to stop here, Claire. A wave of dread crashed over her. He had spoken the words she feared the most, the threat of designated order that echoed within their family unit, but Claire couldn't go back now. She squared her shoulders, feeling Clara's presence beside her, offering strength. I can't, she started, fumbling with words until a fierce clarity emerged. I won't be silent anymore. Not about this. The walls shook with repercussions, the path forward undefined yet vibrant with the pulse of change. Then, it hit. Would her family disown her? Would she lose everything she held dear? As doubt clawed at her heart, she locked eyes with Clara, who squeezed her hands softly, a promise of solidarity. Just then, a loud voice cut through the tension, booming from the back of the audience. So what now? What happens next? Claire inhaled deeply. The moment of truth was here. As all eyes focused on her, she realized this was only the beginning. Would she be ready for the clash that awaited? Would she dare to forge a new path? The question hung heavy in the air, echoing like a heartbeat. Claire stood frozen, adrenaline coursing through her veins as the crowd awaited her response. The weight of their expectations felt like a lead blanket, and yet, deep inside, a fire ignited. She glanced at Clara, who nodded with determination, a shared resolve palpable between them. This was their moment. What happens next? Claire echoed, her voice steadying. Next, we start a conversation. We open the door to understanding and healing. Her words hung in the air, catching the sunlight that streamed through the cracks above, lighting her path ahead. Her heart raced as she continued. It's about creating a space where everyone is heard and respected. It's about learning from each other's experiences. We can't ignore the lives that have been overlooked, the stories that have been silenced. Ethan chimed in, his voice rising with passion. We all have a part to play. It's not a battle between us, it's time to work together. The crowd shifted, energy awakening as murmurs of agreement grew. Claire saw heads nodding, expressions softening. Her mother, however, remained tense, lips pressed in a tight line, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Change is hard, Claire acknowledged, throwing a glance at her father. But it's necessary. We need to choose empathy over fear. The challenge set by her father loomed large, but Claire wouldn't back down now. Even if it means stepping out of your comfort zone, Mom. I love you. I'm not trying to dismiss your fears, but I need you to see what I see. Her mother's gaze faltered, a hint of vulnerability slipping through. For just a moment, Claire caught a glimpse of the woman raised in old traditions, a woman who feared losing everything she held dear. And what if her mother began, voice low but trembling, what if you're wrong? What if you end up hurt? A choke of emotions bubbled in Claire's throat. Then I'll wear my heart on my sleeve, Mom, and fight harder for what I believe in. For Clara. For change. The ripple of sentiments in the crowd surged. Some were nodding vigorously now, while others looked on, still uncertain. But the spark had ignited a fire, stories were swirling, unspoken connections blossoming. Clara stepped up beside Claire again. I've faced hardship, Mrs. Mallory. But I've also learned that love and compassion are stronger than fear. Her voice was calm and clear, yet utterly compelling. We can be allies. Just like that, Claire felt the air shift. The barriers began to crack, and gratitude swelled in her chest at Clara's bravery. A voice shouted from the back, let us open a forum. A real discussion. The excitement rippled through the crowd. It was just the kind of energy Claire needed. Yes. Let us hold meetings, bring in everyone who wants to join. We can create something amazing. Cheers erupted, catching fire like a bright comet as the audience sprang to life. Claire's pulse quickened, hope soaring like a kite on a windy day. But the change wasn't just outside, it was within her own home. She turned again to her mother. This doesn't have to be a separation. Join us, Mom. Be part of this change. Her mom's jaw quivered as if the burden of uncertainty cracked her open. Claire could see her struggling with the fear rooted deep in her heart, but also something else possibility. Clara's heart sank then soared, uncertainty mixing with hope. Would her mother take that leap? Before her mother could respond, Ethan chimed in once more. And we'd like you to help, Mrs. Mallory. The crowd quieted for a moment, waiting. All eyes were on Clara's mother. Just then, a booming voice broke through the moment, a voice filled with authority. It was the principal, stepping forward with an eye on the chaos. This is a school event. We cannot turn this into a debate. The air thickened again, tension weaving its way through hope, threatening to choke it. Clara's stomach dropped. Would the principal shut down their growing momentum? Would he silence their voices before they even began to rise? Her heart raced as she faced the unexpected storm forming in front of them. Please let us speak. Claire found herself shouting, voice cutting through the noise. We have to start somewhere. The moment of tension, the clash of ideals, rested before them all. Would they really get the chance to be heard? Or would they be silenced before they could breathe new life into their message? Claire's heart thundered in her chest, the chaos swirling around her almost drowning out her thoughts. The principal's imposing presence had cast a shadow over their moment, but the fire ignited within her refused to be snuffed out. This was bigger than all of them. Why can't we talk about this? She found herself asking. The principal's stern expression faltered, surprise flickering in his eyes. Because this is a school event, he replied, voice firm, yet a hint of uncertainty lingered. We're here for the students, not for open debates. But isn't that what we need? Claire pressed. A space for students to express themselves? To understand each other? If we can't talk here, then where? Murmurs surged again. Some in the crowd echoed her sentiments, their voices igniting embers of rebellion. It was a surge she could feel, a collective heart beating wildly in rhythm with the pulse of change. Exactly. Clara shouted, stepping forward, her voice rising above the clamor. This isn't just a debate. It's a chance for us all to grow. We're here to celebrate our diversity, not stifle it. The tension hung thick, but Claire sensed the shift. The principal, used to ruling with an iron fist, was confronted with a swell of youthful passion that he hadn't anticipated. She could see it in his posture. He hesitated, uncertainty creeping into his rigid demeanor. "Let us give them a chance to speak." Someone from the back shouted. Among the crowd, a ripple of agreement followed. "Yeah. We deserve to be heard." Another voice chimed in. Claire's gut twisted with the surge of courage blooming around her. For a moment, she glanced back at her mother, waiting with bated breath. Would this be the moment? Would she step forward, too? Her mother's lips parted, eyes darting between Claire and the crowd. With trepidation, she stepped closer to the front, vulnerability etched on her face. I don't want to make this harder for you, Claire," she admitted, a quiver in her voice capturing everyone's attention. "But I'm scared." "That's okay, Mom," Claire responded, eyes brightening with warmth. "Scared can mean you care. But you don't have to stand alone. We're all in this together." The crowd erupted in a cacophony of affirmations. Claire felt the warmth of their support wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. It was invigorating, an unyielding wave of solidarity surging forth in the face of doubt. As the principal surveyed them, the room crackled with renewed energy. "Fine." He relented finally, though his tone carried a warning. "But it has to remain respectful." "We promise," shouted Ethan, fist pumping in the air. The crowd cheered, a chorus of resolve and relief mingling in the air. It felt like climbing to the edge of a cliff and seeing the vastness below. The possibilities loomed ahead like a bright sunrise, illuminating a path filled with potential. Could discussions really lead to change? With a small, shaky smile, Claire turned to her mother. "See, Mom? We just took the first step. It's going to be okay." But just as a glimmer of hope lit in her mother's eyes, another voice rose above the crowd, a voice filled with fury. "You'll regret this," it shouted, echoing through the gathering. Claire turned in shock, pulse quickening as she tried to locate the source, dread settling in her stomach. Who could be that angry over their chance to speak? A figure emerged, someone Claire least expected, and the tension in the air morphed from hopeful energy to a looming storm. What would happen next? Would their gathering dissolve into chaos, or could they rise above the noise? Claire's breath caught in her throat as she squinted to see through the crowd, searching for the voice that disrupted the moment. The figure stood just to the side, partially hidden behind a cluster of parents and older students. It was Jason, a boy from her math class, known for his sharp tongue and quick temper. He was usually the one throwing out sarcastic comments, but this felt different. "Jason," Claire called, her voice firm yet laced with anxiety. "What are you talking about?" He stepped forward, pushing past the other students, his expression a mix of anger and hurt. "You think you can just change everything? You think talking will fix it?" His words were explosive, each one like a punch to the gut. Claire's chest tightened, a familiar sense of unease creeping in as the crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to Jason. "People are scared, Claire. You don't know what they're going through. You can't just waltz in here and pretend like you can fix it all." A murmur rippled through the group. Claire felt the weight of his accusation pressing down like a heavy stone. She knew Jason had been through a lot. His father lost his job, his family's financial struggles often visible in the way he carried himself. But this couldn't be just about fear, it had to be about understanding one another. "Jason, it's okay to be scared," Claire replied, her voice softening. "That's why we need to talk. We can't let fear keep us silent anymore." He scoffed, crossing his arms, but Claire saw a flicker of vulnerability beneath his bravado. "What do you know about it?" he challenged, but the edge in his voice was muted by uncertainty. "I'm scared too," Claire admitted, her heart racing. "But not talking about it won't help. We have to try. For all of us." A tense silence hung in the air. From the back of the crowd, Clara stepped up beside Claire, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Jason, this is our chance to share our stories. The good and the bad. To support one another. We need each other." Jason looked at Clara, then back at Claire, his expression shifting, storm clouds giving way to something softer. "I don't know if it'll work," he muttered, uncertainty lacing his voice. "It will," Claire urged, her own doubts bubbling beneath the surface. "We can figure this out together." Behind her, Claire felt the crowd starting to rally again. People murmured in agreement, voices rising like a tide of encouragement. This was just a beginning, fragile and uncertain, but it had the potential to be something more. As she soaked in the energy of the crowd, Claire caught sight of her mother nodding, encouragement glowing in her eyes. The path was lit with possibilities, but now it felt precarious. Then, suddenly, the principal stepped forward again, his voice cutting through the palpable tension. "All right, if we're going to allow this, I expect decorum," he called out, raising his hand. He looked weary yet resigned, as if he'd already lost the battle against the momentum building around them. "Let us set some ground rules," he continued, a flash of authority returning to his stance. Claire grinned at Clara and Jason, a rising sense of hope blossoming between them, a chance not just to talk, but to transform. Perhaps even to heal. But in that moment of fragile optimism, a bell tolled loudly, signaling the end of day classes. It was a timing that pulled them all back to reality, the momentary safety of their voices now on precarious ground. Would the urge to speak up seep away with the day, losing momentum with the sun? Claire felt her heart race again, realizing they had to captivate this moment while they still had it. A sudden idea sparked within her. "We can make this a real event. An open forum," she exclaimed, turning towards her friends. "Let us not let this die down." Jason's eyes lit up, considering the possibilities. Clara nodded, and gradually, the enthusiasm bubbled up through the crowd once more. But just when it seemed they were solidifying their plan, Claire noticed a shadow creeping toward the edge of the crowd, a darker figure watching from the sidelines. A sense of unease settled in her stomach again. Who else was here? What did they know? What might they do? Claire's heart raced once more as she felt the winds of change shifting dangerously around them. Claire's heart raced as she felt the weight of that shadowy figure watching them. She glanced over her shoulder, scanning the crowd for a glimpse of whoever it was, her instinct screaming that they might not be allies. "Just focus on what we're doing," Clara whispered, nudging Claire gently as if sensing her unease. "This is important." The crowd shifted uneasily as the principal cleared his throat once more. "If we're organizing this open forum, we need to ensure everyone feels safe. We'll set a date for next week," he said, his brow furrowing in concentration. "I expect all of you to conduct yourselves with respect and thoughtfulness." Claire nodded, feeling the energy surge back into the group. A mix of excitement and anxiety rattled within her, but she was determined to keep them united. "We'll spread the word," she said, her voice steady. "We'll make it," but another voice rang out from the back, cutting her off. "What if we don't want to share?" It was Sarah, a girl known for her quiet demeanor, fear now etched across her face. "What if you just make everything worse?" A hush fell over the crowd once more. Claire's heart sank, the very doubt she'd been struggling with had now surfaced. "That's okay," she replied, trying to soothe the tension. "This is about choosing to speak, not forcing anyone to. We just want a chance to be heard." The murmurs grew again, some agreeing with Sarah, while others nodded with Claire. Jason stepped closer, catching Claire's eye. I think it's worth a shot. Not everyone has to talk, but having the space to do so might help, he said, testing the waters. Claire felt a rush of gratitude towards him. Exactly. If even one person feels supported, it's a win, she chimed, noticing several hesitant faces start to lighten with hope. Then, she felt it again, the sensation of someone watching from behind. Her gaze flickered to the shadow. A figure shifted slightly, their features obscured, but she could swear it was watching them intently. As the crowd buzzed with renewed purpose, Claire felt an unexpected chill run down her spine. We should be cautious, she murmured to Clara, who glanced back at the figure too. Do you know who that is? Clara asked, her eyes wide. No, but something's not right. Just then, the bell rang again, echoing loudly across the school grounds, almost like a warning. The students began to move, dispersing slowly into their various groups, but that figure remained, a dark outline on the edge of their discussion. The energy of the moment was fragile, hopes were high but uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud. Claire's thoughts raced as she tried to wrap her mind around all that was happening. Stay together, she said boldly, but inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that their small victory was being eyed by something larger, something that wanted to silence them before they even started. As the crowd began to break apart, Claire turned to Jason and Clara. Let us meet tomorrow at my house. We can plan more. And, we should also figure out who that was. Good idea, Jason agreed, glancing back at the edge of the crowd. But as they turned to walk away, a voice called out, sculpting dread in the air. You shouldn't be planning anything. Claire froze, her heart pounding. She turned slowly, facing the silhouette that now stepped closer into the light. Who was this person that felt so menacing? What did they really want? What else don't we know? Claire wondered, fear gripping her chest. Claire's pulse raced as the figure stepped into the light. The faint glow from the school building silhouetted them, letting a female form emerge from the shadows. She had long dark hair that fell straight down her back, and her intense eyes seemed to pierce through to Claire's very soul. Stay away from this, the girl warned, her voice low but laced with urgency. It sent a shiver down Claire's spine. There was something familiar and yet very unsettling about her demeanor. The crowd had thinned, but those who stayed were captivated, eyes darting between Claire and the unknown girl who now held their attention like a magnet. Claire met Jason's gaze, but she could see his confusion mirrored back. What do you mean? Claire asked, her voice steadier than she felt. We just want to create a safe space for everyone. The girl sighed, running a hand through her hair, almost in resignation. You think it's that simple? You have no idea what you're getting into. This isn't just about talking, it's about what happens after. What do you know about it? Clara chimed in, stepping to Claire's side. The girl's eyes flickered with a mix of apprehension and resolve. I know more than you think. There are those who don't want this forum to happen. You may believe you're doing good, but she hesitated, glancing around, as if searching for eavesdroppers in the fading light. They'll come for you. I'm trying to help, but you have to listen. Claire felt the air grow heavy with tension, a silent battle raging in her mind. The idea that their little group could be a target felt foreign and terrifying. Who are you? She pressed, desperate for clarity. I used to be one of you, the girl said, her voice cracking. My name is Eva. I tried to start a forum years ago. It ended badly. I don't want you to go through what I did. What happened? Jason asked, taking a cautious step closer, his concern evident. People got hurt. Real hurt, Eva replied. They thought it was all just noise, just kids being kids. But when we spoke out and things got real, the school turned dark. You don't know the forces at play here. Claire struggled to understand. But we can't just stay silent. How can we make change if we don't speak? Eva looked at her with a mix of pain and admiration. Sometimes, silence is the only way to survive. I'm not trying to scare you, but what you're planning, it's bigger than you realize. The shadow of fear gripped Claire. The weight of the unknown settled on her shoulders, heavier than before. So, what do we do then? She asked, her heart feeling like a lead weight in her chest. I can't tell you that. But you must trust your instincts, Eva said, stepping back slowly. Just be careful. And with that, she melted back into the shadows, leaving Claire and her friends in a cloud of apprehension. Did we just let her walk away? What was that supposed to mean? Clara breathed, her voice shaky. I don't know, Claire replied, her mind swirling with possibilities. But we need to figure this out together. Whatever it is, we can't back down now. As they turned to leave the school grounds, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. That same presence lurked somewhere just beyond their sight, biding its time, waiting to strike. Tomorrow, Claire said firmly, her determination rising. We will plan. And whatever comes next, we face it together. But deep down, she wondered what if their unity wouldn't be enough against the forces gathering in the shadows? Would their fight for a voice cause more harm than good? The weight of it all pressed heavily on her heart. Claire felt the shadows creeping in, not just around the school, but within the depths of her own resolve. What path lay ahead, and could they truly withstand the storm? The next day dawned with an odd stillness, a feeling that seemed to blanket everything. Claire woke up early, the words of Eva echoing in her mind. She sat on the edge of her bed, uncertainty twisting inside her like a coiled spring. Her fingers traced the edges of her phone, debating whether to check in with Jason and Clara. But what would she say? Meeting with them at the diner felt like a necessity, but fear stuck like glue. What if they changed their minds? What if this was bigger than all of them? 1,000 questions danced around her head, gnawing at her resolve. Just breathe, she murmured to herself, forcing her mind to settle. She finally picked up her phone and sent a message to Jason, meet me at the diner at 10. We need to talk. The hours dragged on as she waited, and by the time she stepped into the cozy diner, the smell of coffee and fresh pancakes enveloped her like an old friend. The usual hum of laughter and clinking silverware felt comforting yet distant. She spotted Jason sitting alone in the corner, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. Hey, she said when she sat down, forcing a smile. But the look in his eyes told her he'd been wrestling with his own fears. Hey, he replied, voice low, avoiding her gaze. Did you think about what Eva said? Claire nodded, her stomach in knots. Yeah. It's hard to ignore, but we can't give up just because of some warnings. Jason leaned closer, urgency sharpening his features. But what if it's true? What if we're really getting in over our heads? We could end up making things worse, or worse, we could put ourselves in danger. Or we could make a change, Clara chimed in, sliding into the booth beside them with determination lighting her eyes. We've got to at least try. If we stay silent, nothing will ever change. Easy for you to say, Jason shot back, frustration bubbling. You aren't the one staring down the barrel of whatever it is Eva hinted at. Claire felt the tension rise as Clara opened her mouth, about to fire back. Look, before Clara could finish, Claire raised her hand to halt them both. We can't fight. We need to be on the same page. Can we focus on what we're going to do? How do we make this safe? They fell into silence, the weight of their goal pressing down harder with each passing moment. The jukebox in the corner played a soft melody, underscoring their contemplation. What if we have to lay low for a bit? Jason suggested finally. Maybe plan our moves secretly, figure out what our parents and the school board think about forums, gather intel before we do anything big? Claire ponders this, a small flicker of hope igniting. Yeah, once we understand their side, we could counter it better. Just more discussion and strategy before we go public, maybe? Clara's shoulders relaxed slightly. Okay, I'm on board with that. It's better than doing nothing. As the three of them planned, sharing ideas like a lifeboat of thoughts and hopes, Claire couldn't shake the nagging feeling creeping back. Eva's words echoed in her mind. What dangers lingered beyond their little group? Just be careful, Claire whispered under her breath, the words heavy on her heart. As they wrapped up their meeting, a rush of resolve surged through her, a promise to protect her friends, their voices. But the shadows were still there, lurking on the periphery, haunting her thoughts. Later that evening, faint sirens echoed in the distance, sending shivers down her spine. A chill ran through her as she caught a glimpse of something moving behind the trees bordering the school. Was it her imagination, or were those shadows growing bolder? Am I just being paranoid? Claire muttered, heart pounding in her chest. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a text from Clara. Do you hear that? Her heartbeat quickened as she realized this might be more than paranoia. What if, Claire thought, what if everything they feared was close to becoming a reality? What if being courageous might come with a cost they weren't ready for? With the weight of fear settling in, Claire knew they were in for something much bigger than she ever imagined. Tomorrow, they would learn just how close the danger was, and what decisions they'd have to make when faced with it. But would courage be enough, or would their dreams be shattered under the weight of unseen shadows? Claire stood at the edge of everything she had ever known, her heart pounding, a storm of emotions swirling within her. The looming consequences of her choices hung in the air, heavy like rainclouds ready to burst. Today was the day she would face the real weight of her speech, the future she envisioned for herself and for Clara. As the sunlight streamed through the trees, bathing everything in golden warmth, Claire gathered her friends, Jason and Clara, in her living room. The walls felt like they were closing in, walls that had sheltered her since childhood, now echoed with doubt. We have to do this, Claire began, her voice steady. We need to prepare. We're making a forum happen, together. Jason nodded hesitantly, glancing around. But what if it all backfires? What if? His voice trailed off, the weight of fear palpable. But Clara jumped in, her eyes gleaming with unwavering determination. But what if we don't do anything? What if we let fear win? Claire felt a fire ignite within her, a flicker of defiance. We can't let fear rule us, she exclaimed. This is our chance to build something better. For all of us. Their shared resolve washed over them like a tidal wave, sweeping away doubts, and a sense of camaraderie took root. As they spoke, strategizing their next moves, Claire felt her phone buzz on the table. It was a group text from Ethan, chiming in from a shared class chat, ready to take a stand and make it happen? Let us show up. We need to be united. Excitement fluttered in her heart. People were listening, they were ready, but just as hope began to bloom, the ominous tone of her thoughts came crashing back. As evening wrapped around them, the air grew dimmer and the shadows lengthened. A sense of urgency wrapped around her as she turned towards Jason and Clara. We'll face whatever comes, but we must be ready for anything. As the night deepened, Claire's mind raced with the specters of uncertainty. What if the people who wished for the silence succeeded? What if her family turned against her? Yet intertwined with the fear was a fierce determination. With every breath, she felt stronger, a force pushing her toward acknowledging everyone's truth. Next day, as they approached the gymnasium for the forum, Claire felt the energy surging like a live wire. The once plain walls were adorned with banners hung by eager hands, each word painted brightly, echoing their hopes and dreams. Her heart swelled, a kaleidoscope of emotions swirling. This was more than a forum, it was a celebration of courage. The crowd began to gather, their chatter palpable, an excited hum that buzzed through the air. Parents eyed their children uncertainty, while students whispered amongst themselves, curiosity piqued by the words spoken in private just yesterday. And then there was Jason, Clara, and Ethan at her side, solidarity radiating from each heart. This was it. Good evening, everyone. Clara's voice rang out above the growing buzz, confident and clear like morning sunlight breaking through clouds. Today we take steps toward understanding each other. This is our chance to listen and share. As she gazed around, she saw her mother in the crowd, her expression hard yet softened with something warmer than disdain. Claire forged on, feeling exhilarated. I believe our differences make us strong. It's time to embrace every story, every voice, because together we rise. The response came alive, cheers erupting, a sea of hope igniting the room, and then the electricity shifted. As speakers stepped forward, vulnerability wrapped its arms around individuals who spoke truths. Time blurred, laughter blended with tears of acknowledgement, as stories wove connection. Each voice chipped away at the fears clinging to the walls, until finally, the atmosphere pulsed with the understanding they had craved, but a shadow loomed. Just as Claire began to feel the reverberations of success, a sharp voice broke through the celebration. This is nonsense. A figure from the back stepped forward, an adult, furious. Claire's heart raced, an unsettled tension wrapping around them. You. Bringing chaos into our school. Why? Jason challenged, the tension intensifying. We want to talk openly. Why is that wrong? The hall fell silent, eyes darting between Jason and the angry figure. Clara's heart was a drum, echoing loudly in her ears. Behind her, Clara clenched her fists, stepping closer to Claire. This is how we bridge the divide. We need to talk. She shouted, her voice filled with passion, and then Claire found her courage swaying. What we want is to change the narrative. To bring people together. You can't silence us anymore. The weight of her words sunk in, momentary silence, like a breath held in suspense. In that moment, a spark ignited in the crowd. Let them speak. Someone cried, igniting a chain reaction. The support flooded over, resonating like thunder within the space. Claire felt invitations to share transform into alliances, and she looked back at her mother. Their eyes met, a tremor of understanding radiating between them. The anger dissipated, frail and almost forgotten, as a river of voices rose in unison, calling for change. And as they spoke, their fears transformed into hope. The shadow that had loomed so threateningly dark lifted, replaced by a bright promise unfolding before them. The conflict hadn't vanished, but solidarity filled the air, an assurance that they could stand as one against anything trying to silence them. It wasn't just the start of a forum, it was the genesis of something far larger, a community bound by the very stories they feared sharing. As Claire took a deep breath, she clasped Clara's hand, a radiant smile spreading across her face. We did it, she whispered, overwhelmed by the emotion. The weight of despair slipped away, replaced by a heart full of light. This was the transformation they needed, not just her, Clara, or Jason, but everyone in that room. The journey was far from over, but as they walked forward together, hearts interlocked, hope soared high into the sky, bright as the morning sun breaking the dawn, an undeniable truth that they would always rise together. And now, before you leave, listen up. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help your favorite content spread even further. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of lifting each other up.